Welcome to Walking the Earth. Today we are in Lumbini, Nepal, in the ancient Middle Lands on Rose Apple Island. So what are the Middle Lands and what is Rose Apple Island, you might ask? Well, sitting here in this sacred area, it's a great place to discuss it, where we've got the complex where Siddhartha Gautama, Shakyamuni the Buddha, was born, the sacred bathing tank where his mother bathed to cool herself right before giving birth, with a Bodhi tree, the type of tree that the Buddha sat on, or that Siddhartha Gautama sat underneath in order to attain enlightenment, and then strewn with Tibetan prayer flags. So this is a very interesting sacred location. So what about Rose Apple Island? Well, this was a name that was given in ancient times in the Buddhist text, at least the Pali text. I'm not sure if in the Sarvastivadin Vedan early text, the Agamas, I don't know if they call it Rose Apple Island as well. Perhaps you do. Please mention in the comments. But what is a rose apple? And why do they call it Rose Apple Island? Well, this would have been basically South Asia. And a rose apple it looks like a pear. And it tastes a little bit like a pear or an apple. It's very crispy. It's shaped like a pear. It tends to be brownish or reddish in color. If you have traveled around Bangkok or in Thailand or Southeast Asia and you've gone to the little street fruit vendors, they will often have it there along with papaya and pineapple cut up and put into little baggies. And then you can eat with a stick or with your hands. And so you may have had it in these slices. So it'll be red or brown. And they're very nice and they have a lot of fiber. And so very crispy. Now they're shaped like a pear. So if you hold it in your hand, it'll be round at the bottom and then it comes to a point similar to a stupa. It resembles a stupa. And now if you flip it upside down and you have the rounded part at the top and then the thin part at the bottom, and now think about a map of India with Sri Lanka hanging off the bottom, almost like the leaf off of a stem. So you've got the shape of a rose apple hanging down, like so the top where it's rounded is up by Nepal, and you've got, Pakistan and northern India and Bangladesh, and then it comes down to a point where you've got, Karnataka and Kerala and Tamil Nadu, going down to Kanyakumari, the place where the tip of India is, located at the place where three seas meet, the Bay of Bengal, the Indian Ocean, and the Arabian Sea. And then a little bit further over at Rameshwar, I'm totally mispronouncing that, but it's a sacred site where Adam's Bridge, a bridge of small islands that used to connect directly, where you could either walk across or take boats across easily to Sri Lanka. So this is interesting. So it's got the shape, so South Asia has the shape of a rose apple. So it's almost like if you had seen it from a spaceship from above, then you might see it and what does our home look like? It looks like a rose apple upside down. Oh, that makes sense. So we've got a very interesting depiction. And we've got a lot of stories from ancient India of flying ships, vimanas, and of people in meditative states being able to go very high into the atmosphere, to fly, to hover, or in a physical way, or to send their conscious awareness outside to explore the outer realm. So it could be that some ancient yogis noted this and gave it the name. So all of South Asia is Rose Apple Island historically, the whole subcontinent, which is actually independently a continent that crashed into Eurasia, or Afro-Eurasia if you prefer, and then forms the Himalayan uplift as it's pushing into Eurasia and then forming not only the Himalayas, but the Tibetan plateau, which is interesting because we have the Tibetan flags around here. So now I also mentioned the phrase, the Middle Land. The Buddha calls the areas where he lived and spent time the Middle Lands. And this is what's reported in the ancient texts. Well, what are the Middle Lands? Well, they historically would include what is now the Indian state of Bihar, or Vihara, monastic fortified complex, may have been connected to Nalanda University, or to the vihars of the historic Buddha. I'm not aware of the specifics of the name, but it is related to all of these things. And then, so we've got Vihar, or Bihar, and we've got Eastern Uttar Pradesh. A significant part of Uttar Pradesh is located within the Middle Lands, especially the area, the Doab, those lands between the two rivers of the Yamuna and the Ganga. So it's really throughout the Gangetic plains and extends into Nepal's Terrai. These wetland areas that include Lumbini and Kapilavastu. Kapilavastu nowadays is, we have ruins associated with Kapilavastu, the place where the Buddha grew up and renounced his throne and sought enlightenment initially. They're either located in Nepal or right across the border in India. So it's these three areas, the Nepali Terrai, and then eastern Uttar Pradesh, and Bihar. So the areas of Bihar that are part of the Middle Lands would include Gaya, would include Bodh Gaya, Rajgiri, Nalanda, Patna, which used to be the ancient Mauryan capital of Pataliputra, and it would include Vaisali or Vaishali, Kesaria, which was an ancient stupa complex that had a big influence on stupas throughout Southeast Asia. It would also have included right across the state border into Uttar Pradesh. It would include Kushinagar, the place where the Buddha passed away. It would include the place where his relics were divided up, I believe a place called Don. And it would also include Gorakhpur. It would include Varanasi and Sarnath, the deer park where the Buddha first gave his first discourses, his first teachings. So we have in these locations, and also it include Kosambi on the river Yamuna. It would include Allahabad or Prayag, where the Yamuna and the Ganga, the Ganges, come together at a very famous confluence. Further up the Yamuna, it would include Agra, it would include Mathura and Vrindavan. I'm mispronouncing that, my apologies. That's a famous center associated with Krishna. So a lot of these, it would also, and speaking of Krishna and Rama, it would include Ayodhya, which was an ancient Rama center. And Rama and Krishna in some traditions are associated with the Buddha as previous lives. Within the Vaishnavite tradition, it includes avatars, various incarnations. Those are different videos where we will discuss different aspects of comparative religion. But I wanted to just kind of break down this. And so I think the Middle Lands would also go up to Delhi and a bit north, maybe to Kurukshetra area, where the Buddha gave the Mahasatipatthana Sutta and outlined an important part of his meditative contemplative technique. So we've got all these areas in the Middle Lands. There are other rumored areas that the Buddha traveled, but these are the areas where we're more certain that he spent time and were associated with the historical Buddha. So my understanding is these are the Middle Lands. They would include the kingdoms of Kosali, Saravasti. They would, or Koshala. They would include, Rajgiri was the capital of Magadha. So you had a number of kingdoms, up by Kesaria, that's where the Lichavis were. This area of Lumbini and Kapilavastu, that's where the Shakya people were, that I believe at some point they paid tribute to the kings of Koshala at Saravasti. And the Buddha himself spent a lot of time at Saravasti for rain retreats. This is the time of the rain retreats, when monks and nuns are spending time in intensive meditation, because it's very difficult to walk and travel and go out on begging rounds during the day during the monsoons. So for 3-4 months a year, they would spend time in seclusion and engage in deep meditation retreats and go as deep as possible. And so there were a number of rain retreats where the Buddha and his disciples would spend time, including Kosambi, including Rajgiri, including Vaisali. So all of these are within the Middle Lands, located on Rose Apple Island in South Asia. So I wanted to give a little outline of this. There are many details that I'm not aware of, that I'm still learning about, and that you may be aware of. If you want to share in the comments, that would be excellent. Those are always welcome. We look for positive contributions and collaborations in the learning process. We honor the learning process and those who are more learned for their diligence and their endeavors. And Buddha Dhamma is a learning tradition. And it's learning who we are as humans, and applying the various sciences to all aspects of life. And so many people consider the Buddha Gautama to be a great scientist of the inner realms and the outer. He was a master of knowledge of outer nature and inner, and you can see this in his stories, in his little teaching stories, in the parables he told, in his poetics, because his teachings are related in couplets, in rhyming chants and poems. And perhaps some people might disagree with that, but from my knowledge, they're spoken and remembered in poetic form. So anyway, we'll go ahead and draw this to a close, but right now we are in Lumbini, in Nepal's Terrai region of the Middle Lands, on Rose Apple Island in South Asia, on the megacontinent of Afro-Eurasia, in this beautiful world that we should appreciate more and more. Till next time, may you be present and appreciative, healthy, peaceful, aware, and ever expansive in your vision and your heart.